Want to know the latest in soccer? Then listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast. From MLS, the World Cup, and the Premier League, we've got you covered. The latest updates, the hottest matches, and news on the league's top players. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast.
David Beckham scores the goal to take England all the way to the World Cup finals.
Listen now.
Thank you for listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast, where we discuss all the news in the world of soccer. My name is Ben Brown. I'd like to thank you again for listening and joining us here at the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. We're here discussing all things soccer, and we are not going to waste any time because I have the feeling this is going to be a pretty lengthy show. We're going to focus heavily on the show, especially in the first segment with the Champions League, the UEFA Champions League. We had the first meetings between the first half of the round of 16. We have 4 games done. Of course, tomorrow and Wednesday will be the other 8 teams. And then the reverse fixtures will be next week as well. So for the next 4 weeks, really, we're going to be talking about the Champions League. And we have to start with the results from last week, as well as previewing the upcoming games of tomorrow and of Wednesday. So let's not waste any time. Let's get right into it. Talk about what we saw on Tuesday last week. The headliner, of course, Paris Saint-Germain against Barcelona. If I would have told you going into the game that one team is going to win 4-0, I would have assumed one thing. I would have said, wow, Lionel Messi, Luis Suarez, Neymar, probably Andres Iniesta, they had a huge impact on the game, and they really tore it up and toppled PSG. Well, it was quite the opposite. The French champions absolutely destroy Barcelona in Paris, 4-0. A couple of goals from Angel Di Maria. He is just tearing it up again against Barcelona, like he used to do with Real Madrid. He had a free kick goal in the first half, a goal outside the box with his left foot in the 50th minute. You also saw some goals from Edinson Cavani as well as Julian Draxler. So they absolutely destroy Barcelona. And honestly, after watching this game, it was almost like Barcelona brought their B squad to Paris. I mean, they didn't have an impact on the game at all. In the whole entire game, Barcelona had one shot on goal. One! This is a team with Lionel Messi, Luis Suarez, and Neymar up front. The best front three we might have seen ever, and definitely in the game today. They had one shot on goal in the entire game. I don't think I've seen Lionel Messi have less of an impact on a game in his whole entire career. PSG were pressing really high up the pitch. They were winning the ball back from Barcelona consistently. They were under pressure the whole game. Barcelona looked unsettled the whole entire game, and they were just not in a comfort zone and not really ready. They did not start Ivan Rakitic. Andre Gomez got the start in the center of the midfield, and I kind of criticized that from Luis Enrique. You can look at it now and realize hindsight's 20/20, but you didn't have the typical Barcelona squad. Sergio Roberto had to come in to replace Alex Vidal, who got injured at the weekend against Alaves. And he's not a right back, but you can't put the blame on him. He did not have any trouble. He had to deal with Julian Draxler as well as Di Maria a lot of the time. But he really handled his weight. It was more about the PSG press. They constantly won the ball back up the pitch. People like Marco Verratti and Blaise Matuidi really stood out to me in this game. And I was really surprised at this result because Paris Saint-Germain were without their captain, Thiago Silva. He missed the game with a hamstring injury. He's their best center back, and they didn't have him in the game. So I was really surprised that they were able to have the success they had without him. And they weren't even tested. Their defense was not tested at all. Only one shot on goal on goalkeeper Kevin Trapp. Paris Saint-Germain absolutely dominated them. And it's because of their work they did in the midfield and constantly winning the ball high up the pitch. Barcelona were never able to string a few passes together, really get comfortable. PSG really swarmed them and came out with a lot of intensity and fire and really took it to Barcelona. And now they're down 4-0. I realize in a couple of weeks they're going to be going back to the Bernabeu. That'll be Wednesday, March 8th. But they're down 4-0. They did not get an away goal. No team has ever come back from a 4-goal deficit in the Champions League. I don't see how Barcelona can do that. I think the reverse fixture in Barcelona in Spain at the Camp Nou, I think they'll win that one, but they're not going to win it. Even 4-0, they're going to need to get to 4-0 to even send it to extra time and not allow PSG to get an away goal. That's going to be a tough test. I mean, PSG are a really, really good side. I'm sure they'll have Thiago Silva back for the second half of this fixture, the second leg. And really, they took that intensity to Barcelona, and I'm sure they're going to play with that same fire and passion because they know they can beat this team. They absolutely dismantled them. This is the worst I've seen Barcelona look under Luis Enrique, who's already sort of under fire about being the manager there. It's been really criticized lately, and I guess a lot of this can point to this game as well. It was not a good look for Barcelona, and they got absolutely killed. 4-0. To come back from that, there's no chance. PSG are too good of a side. Even against a weaker opponent, it would have been really, really tough. The other game of that day was Benfica and Dortmund. The game was in Portugal. Benfica came out on top. Kostas Mitroglou with a goal in that game. After that game, he had 13 goals in his last 13 competitions. It was their only shot on goal. Dortmund had a lot of possession, but they couldn't really make much of it. They did have 5 shots on goal in the game. And the headline here is Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang missing a penalty in the 52nd minute of this game, which would have made it 1-1 at the time. Even at a 1-1 result, it would have been a good result for Dortmund because they would have had that away goal. But going back to Germany without an away goal is not a good thing. Although there is only a 1-goal deficit to Benfica, something that the German powerhouse can definitely overcome. They're a much better side. They're going back to Germany, back to Dortmund, which is one of the toughest atmospheres to play in all of world football. So I'd still expect them to be the favorite, but they're kind of going through the motions right now. They did win on Saturday in the Bundesliga, but they've only won 3 out of their last 11 games in all competitions now, and they're just not really looking like the powerhouse that we've seen the last few years, with the exception of Jurgen Klopp's last year, a couple of years ago, or even the form they were in last year in the Europa League and in the Bundesliga. They're just not really that team right now. They're kind of just going through the motions. But going back on Wednesday to March 8th to Dortmund with a 1-goal deficit, I think they should come out on top, and we'll obviously preview that when the time comes. So now we'll look at Wednesday. So last Wednesday we had Real Madrid and Napoli and Bayern Munich and Arsenal. We'll go with Real Madrid and Napoli first. So Real Madrid come out on top 3-1 over Napoli. Napoli actually got the goal-scoring opening first. Lorenzo Insigne in the 8th minute with an absolutely filthy 40-yard curler past Keylor Navas. He kind of broke free. He had the back line kind of pushing at him. He knew he was going to get caught up too, so he kind of just took his chances and hit a curler right around Keylor Navas, who kind of got caught sleeping a little bit there from 40 yards out. It was an absolutely fantastic goal for the Italian international player, and it put them up 1-0, which was a big away goal. But Real Madrid answered right back. Karim Benzema gets a header in the first half off a Dani Carvajal cross. You had Toni Kroos get a nice curler in the second half. And then Casemiro with by far the goal of the game from outside of the box. First time volley, absolutely smashes it into the back corner to give the defending champions a 3-1 lead. They're going to be going to Italy with a 3-1 lead. They're definitely in a really good situation right now. Although Napoli did get that away goal, so if they can technically go back home and win like 2-0, then they'll be in a good spot. But Real Madrid are flying high right now. They got Gareth Bale back on Saturday. We'll talk about his return. He returned in a big way. And they're just looking kind of unstoppable right now. They've gone 42 consecutive games with scoring. So they've not been held to a clean sheet for 42 consecutive games now. You got to imagine it's going to be tough for them to get held to a clean sheet by Napoli in the second half of this fixture, which is probably what's going to need to happen for the Italian team to progress into the quarterfinals. So now let's talk about Bayern Munich and Arsenal. This is a rematch of the group stage last year. Bayern Munich won in Germany at the Allianz Arena 5-1, and Arsenal won at Emirates Stadium 2-0 in both those games. So we have seen these teams play in the Champions League pretty much every year. 4 of the last 5 years. Bayern have knocked him out of the Champions League 2 of the last 4. And really, I think it's going to be 3 of the last 5. Because Bayern Munich destroy Arsenal 5-1. This is not from last year. This is a week ago. This is, well, I guess you could say 5 days ago. This was the game Wednesday, 5-1. The same result that was last year at the Allianz Arena when these two teams met. Bayern Munich absolutely dominated the second half of this game. It was 1-1 at the half. Arsenal were playing really well near the tail end of that first half. Looked really dangerous, had some chances. They even had more shots on goal than Bayern did in that first half. But the second half, the rails completely fell off. Laurent Koscielny had to leave the game with an injury in the 49th minute. And by the time the 63rd minute came, it was already 4-0. The England team gave up 3 goals within 13 minutes of Koscielny leaving the pitch. So I don't want to say it was because Laurent Koscielny left the pitch. I'm sure it made a little bit of an impact. Gabriel came on. But honestly, it was just that this defensive back line for Arsenal just in that second half really had a lot of mental letdowns. I remember Robert Lewandowski and Thiago met on one goal where Mustafi was looking towards Hector Bellerin, his right back, and Thiago ran right in the middle of him and had a one-on-one with goalkeeper David Ospina and obviously slotted it home because Mustafi was looking at his right back talking as opposed to watching Thiago run right by him in the middle of the box. Just not a good look for Arsenal. The player of the game was really Thiago. He had a couple of goals. He also had 1 assist to Thomas Muller in the 55th minute. We talked about it last week. Like, Bayern don't look the same team. They're not as like physically of a threat. They're kind of going through the motions and struggling. Well, they didn't struggle at all in this game because they put it right to Arsenal. I mean, they completed almost 1,000 passes. Arsenal barely completed 200. Xabi Alonso was an absolute horse in the midfield. Absolutely just dominated the game. Arsenal only had 24% possession. Didn't get anything creative going. Just a really bad look. And now Arsenal, you have to say, this is going to be their 7th year in a row exiting in the round of 16 in the Champions League. They'd have to win 4-0 at the Emirates Stadium to advance in this instance, down 5-1 with the away goal. There's no way that is happening. Bayern are too good of a team, and I don't think Arsenal can honestly score 4 goals against Bayern Munich. I really don't think that could ever happen. Yet again, Arsenal disappoint in the Champions League. I know a lot of people have had enough of it. I'm not going to say anything about that, but it's just really, really disappointing to see a team as good as they are with the legacy and tradition they have, one of the elite clubs in the world, consistently not being able to put up good results against top opposition like Bayern Munich and among others. Last year they lost out to Barcelona. I mean, I don't know what it is, but they just simply cannot get it done in the Champions League. They had a tough draw against Bayern, I will admit that. But still, to lose 5-1 the way they did, giving up 3 goals in 10 minutes in the second half, really just a bad mental letdown and a bad result for Arsenal yet again. So now let's look at the games coming up at the second half of the Champions League round of 16 here. So tomorrow and Wednesday we have Bayer Leverkusen against Atletico Madrid. We have really, in my eyes, the most intriguing matchup here is Manchester City against Monaco. We have Porto against Juventus on Wednesday, and Sevilla against the English champions Leicester City on Wednesday as well. So let's break down each of these games a little bit. Bayer Leverkusen and Atletico Madrid. Both teams that are kind of struggling after good years last year. Bayern did top their group they came in second behind Monaco, I apologize. And then Atletico Madrid did top their group. So this first leg will be played in Germany and Leverkusen. Atletico Madrid are playing really well as of lately. They've kind of struggled recently in La Liga, but they're kind of turning it around. Bayer Leverkusen really struggling in the Bundesliga this year. Not really the same team they were last year. They're currently 8th in the Bundesliga with 30 points through 21 games. So they're kind of going through the motions. Of course, they have Chicharito, Javier Hernandez, who's going to be their top threat. But Atletico have a number of top players. Yannick Carrasco is playing fantastic. Antoine Griezmann's also a threat. And then the back line they have, the back four is always fantastic for Atletico Madrid. So I would imagine Atletico Madrid should come out on top. If they get an away goal or 2, it's going to be really, really big and crucial. Diego Simeone has a great way of making sure that his team are ready for the Champions League. They've been in the final 2 of the last 3 years. although they did lose both those times to Real Madrid. They're in, I guess you can say, they're Madrid derby rivals. They have been losing to them, but still, even getting to the Champions League final 2 of the last 3 years is quite an accomplishment. So I will imagine Atletico Madrid will probably get an away goal or two. I'm sure Bayer Leverkusen will have a couple of chances. They've had good form in the Champions League this season as opposed to their form in the Bundesliga. So we'll have to wait and see how things go. And then to me, the most intriguing matchup here is Manchester City against Monaco. Monaco are, of course, the champions of their group, the leaders, the winners of their group. So this first leg will be played at the Etihad Arena in Manchester. Monaco, we all know about how many goals they score in League One. They're Europe's top scorers through 26 games. They've scored 76 goals, so they're always a threat. And with the back line of Manchester City currently looking how it does, you have to imagine Monaco are going to go into England and at least get one goal. I'd say there's no way they get held scoreless. John Stones has been a disappointment since being brought in by Pep Guardiola. They can never consistently have a fullback pairing that works for them. So I'd imagine Monaco should be able to go in there and at least get one goal. They're so capable. 76 goals through 26 games in the league is absolutely fantastic. Manchester City are a good team as well, though. I mean, Sergio Aguero is coming back into the side since Gabriel Jesus did get injured in the Premier League a couple weeks back. He's out for about 2 to 3 months. So Sergio Aguero's in the side. They're still a great attacking team. Leroy Sané has been playing really well as Raheem Sterling at the wings. You have Kevin De Bruyne, David Silva in the midfield, Fernandinho. So they're still really, really capable, but it's the back line that really worries me for City and is, I think, going to really struggle against Monaco. I think Monaco are really licking their chops in this matchup because of how bad Manchester City have been recently, especially with their defense. Just not really a good side. You look at Wednesday now, Porto and Juventus. Juventus are, of course, the champions of their group, and Porto coming in second place. This game will be in Portugal, the first leg here, I mean. So I think Juventus are definitely ready for this game. They're coming out hungry. Higuain and Dybala, I'm sure, will cause havoc for Porto. I see them scoring at least a goal or two to go up in this fixture. Porto are maybe going to cause some threats. People like Jan Brahimi, Miguel Layun at left back's one of the best in the world, one of the more underrated in my eyes. So I'm sure Porto will maybe give them a little bit of problems to Juve, but I do expect the Italian champions to come out on top here in the first leg and really put themselves in a good situation going back to Juventus. You look at Sevilla and Leicester is the last game here in the round of 16. And it's really a tale of two sides. Sevilla, kind of the surprise, one of the surprises of Europe this season in La Liga, playing really, really well. They sit third in the La Liga's table right now with 49 points through 23 games, only 2 points behind Barcelona and 3 points behind Real Madrid. So they're playing really, really well right now and are really solidifying themselves as a top team in Europe, one of the more underrated teams. And then you have Leicester City, the dream season last year, but they are really, really struggling this year. They've lost 5 games in a row in the Premier League, and they lost in the FA Cup to Millwall on Saturday when they had a man advantage for the second half, couldn't score. Millwall scored in the 89th minute to advance. People are calling for Claudio Ranieri's head to sack him, which I think is absolutely crazy. This is a guy who won the league with Leicester, of all teams, last year, so I don't think you can get rid of him for that. But I will give Leicester City some credit. In the Champions League, they've been really, really good this year. They only lost 1 game in Week 6, which is, of course, when they already had the group wrapped up, so they rested a lot of their players. So they've been really good in the Champions League, but not so good recently. And I don't see how Sevilla don't win this game. Sevilla are coming in as a second-place finisher, so this first game is going to be in Spain. I think that's a huge advantage. I honestly see the floodgates opening for Leicester here. I think Sevilla put at least 2, maybe even 3 goals by the English champions and put themselves in a really good situation to advance to the quarterfinals here. Leicester are just, they have a lot of problems right now. N'Golo Kanté has been irreplaceable. We've seen that this year. Jamie Vardy's not in the same form he has been last year. Neither has Riyad Mahrez. And their back line with Robert Huth, Wes Morgan, Danny Simpson, Christian Fuchs just really is not doing as good as they were last year. They were a rock last year, especially down the stretch as they were looking to become champions. And this season, not so much the case. I don't see how Sevilla screw this up. I think they absolutely open the floodgates against Leicester because they're just in turmoil right now and everything is going bad for the English champions. That's going to be it for the first segment. After this, we'll talk about results from this weekend in the top leagues around the world. This is the Golden State Media Concept Soccer Podcast. We'll be right back, guys.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
This is the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast. We are back. We're talking some results from this weekend. We'll start off with the German Bundesliga. On Friday, Bayer Leverkusen defeat Augsburg 3-1, so they have a little bit of momentum leading in to their tie against Atletico Madrid on the Champions League this upcoming week. Werder Bremen defeat Mainz 2-0. Hoffenheim defeat Darmstadt 2-0 as well. Ingolstadt with a 2-0 victory over Eintracht. Kind of a surprise there. Ingolstadt near the bottom in 17th, Eintracht in 5th. So a little bit of an upset there. Hertha Berlin and Bayern Munich played to a 1-1 draw. Bayern escape losing their second game of the season with an equalizer from Robert Lewandowski in the 96th minute. Dortmund win over Wolfsburg 3-0. Goals from Lucas Piszczek and Ousmane Dembele in that game. Hamburg and Freiburg played to a 2-2 draw. RB Leipzig returned back to their winning ways after their 2-game losing streak. They defeat Borussia Mönchengladbach 2-1. And FC Cologne and Schalke play to a 1-1 draw. Looking at the table here, Bayern's still at top, although Leipzig did get 2 points gamed on them. It is now 50-45, Bayern Munich and RB Leipzig. Dortmund slide into third with 37. They are tied with Hoffenheim with 37 as well. Eintracht with the loss, 35. They're in 5th. Hertha Berlin with the draw against Bayern. They are 6th with 34 points. At the bottom of the table, Darmstadt are last with 12. Ingolstadt, second to last with 18. Werder Bremen, 16th with 19. And then you look at Hamburg with 20 points. Wolfsburg with 22 points. And FC Augsburg with 24 points. So, Bayern Munich do drop some points, but nevertheless, they're still going to be on top. They're still favored and should win the Bundesliga. They're going to do it again. But honestly, like I said, they've been kind of going through the motions, a little struggling here. They honestly should have lost. They get the goal off the corner kick there at the end of the game by Lewandowski. So they should have lost 1-0, but then they go out against Arsenal and put 5 past them. It's just, I mean, as an Arsenal fan, it's just kind of disappointing. But nevertheless, we'll transition over to talk about Serie A now. So Serie A on Friday, Juve with a 4-1 win over Palermo. Paulo Dybala hits an absolutely filthy free kick against former club. Gonzalo Higuain also scores in that game. He's got 17 goals now in the league. They're absolutely flying high, and I don't see anyone catching them. On Saturday, Atalanta beat Crotone 1-0. Lazio defeat Empoli 2-1. On Sunday, Inter Milan defeat Bologna 1-0. We saw the first goal for Inter Milan player Gabriel Barbosa in the 81st minute. He, of course, came over this summer after the success he had for Brazil at the Rio Olympics. So he scores his first goal for Inter there in the victory. Sassuolo defeat Udinese 2-1. Napoli defeat Chievo 3-1. Pescara defeat Genoa 5-0. Big result there for Pescara. Sampdoria and Cagliari play to a 1-1 draw. Roma defeat Torino 4-1. Goal in that game by Edin Dzeko. Dzeko is playing fantastic. He's got 18 goals in Serie A, which is tops of the league. He had a hat-trick in the midweek against in the Europa League. He also scores on the weekend against Torino. He's playing really well since coming over from Manchester City. And then AC Milan defeat Fiorentina 2-1. Gerard Deulofeu gets his first goal as a member of AC Milan, which is actually the winner in the 31st minute. So good there for Deulofeu to get that done, and congrats to Gerard. So in the Serie A standings, Juventus are, of course, first. They have a 7-point lead at the top over Roma, 63-56. Napoli in third with 54 points. Inter and Atalanta are tied with 48 points for fourth and fifth. Lazio are sixth with 47. AC Milan are 7th with 44. At the bottom of the table, Pescara picked up that 3-0 victory, or a 5-0 victory, which was great, but they still sit bottom of the table with 12 points. Crotone 19th with 13, Palermo 18th with 14, and there's a really big gap. Empoli, 22 points. Genoa, 25 points. And Bologna, 22 points. So there's an 8-point difference between 18th and 17th. So you have to imagine Pescara, Crotone, and Palermo will probably get relegated down to Serie B next season. Looking at La Liga here, La Liga on Friday, Granada pick up a 4-1 victory over Real Betis. Atletico Madrid pick up a 4-1 victory as well over Sporting Gijón. We saw a 4-minute and 43-second hat-trick by French international Kevin Gamero. Great game there. 4-1. They're returning and playing in really good form in La Liga now. Real Madrid pick up a 2-0 victory over Espanyol. We saw the return of Gareth Bale after missing about 3 months with an injury. He comes off the bench and he scores within 13 minutes to give Real the 2-0 victory. I mean, what else can I say about Gareth Bale? The Welsh international is absolutely fantastic. He returns back from an injury and scores on his debut in 13 minutes. All he really needs to do is get his fitness level back up, and he will be back starting on that right wing for Real, which makes them even more dangerous. They're already playing like the best team in the world, and they haven't had arguably their second best player for the last 3 months, which is kind of scary to think. How good can they be once Bale gets back into his top form? It's going to be interesting to watch. Alaves defeat Deportivo 1-0. Sevilla defeat Eibar 2-0. Villarreal defeat Real Sociedad 1-0. Valencia top Atletico Bilbao 2-0. Celta Vigo defeat Osasuna 3-0. Malaga and Las Palmas will play today. And Barcelona defeat Leganes 2-1. A 90th minute penalty winner for Lionel Messi. He rescues Barcelona again from almost a really bad result. He had 2 goals in the game, one of them coming in the 4th minute, and of course the penalty in the 90th. They were staring 1-1 draw in the face, and it would have been another bad result. Barcelona really struggling in La Liga. A lot of question marks fired at Luis Enrique. People questioning should he even be the manager still. There's reports coming out in Europe that possibly Ronald Koeman could be a top replacement for Luis Enrique. Of course, Koeman is managing at Everton right now and played for Barcelona. So he has a little bit of a rapport there, and he, of course, is a very good manager. He's having Everton really good right now in the league. They're currently in 7th in the league right now in the Premier League. So that could be a good possibility, but Luis Enrique really under fire for his managerial position at the club. And they're just not playing as well as they should be, and they've kind of struggled this year. They're 1 point back of Real Madrid right now, but Los Blancos do have 2 games in hand. So say, for instance, they play those 2 games and they get victories. They could have a 7-point lead at the top of La Liga, which would be monstrous and almost something you couldn't overcome. So you'd have to imagine that Barcelona would kind of be out right now. And it's 1 point, as I mentioned, but it's really not 1 point because Real Madrid do have 2 more games to play than any other club in La Liga. So it's tough. You know, they have to maybe get some drops, some results. And Real look unstoppable right now, and I don't really see that happening. So as I mentioned, Sevilla are in 3rd with 49 points. Atletico Madrid returning back to good form. They're in 4th with 45 points. Real Sociedad, with their loss to Villarreal, stay 5th with 41. Villarreal are in 6th with 39. Eibar and Atletico Bilbao are 7th and 8th with 35 points. At the bottom of the table, Osasuna have 10 points. Granada and Sporting Gijón are 18th and 19th with 16 points. Leganes is 18 points, 17th. Deportivo La Coruña, they are 16th with 19 points. And then Valencia and Malaga are 15th and 14th with 23 points. So a little bit of a gap there. Leganes and Deportivo still trying to fight and hang on at the bottom of La Liga. Have about 15 games left. Have to see if they can stay up in La Liga and avoid relegation. We're going to look at League One now. League One on Friday. League leaders Monaco get held to a 1-1 draw against Bastia. Bernardo Silva did get the 1 goal for Monaco there. On Saturday, Marseille defeat Rennes 2-0. Metz and Nantes played to a 1-1 draw. Nice returned back to their winning ways and defeat Lorient 1-0, although Mario Balotelli, he does get sent off again. Already his 3rd red card for Nice as a player. Only his 1st season there. Not really good. They were really hanging on there for a while, but I think they're slowly fading away from the title challenge. Although, you look at the table, I mean, it's not too bad. They are only 3 points back, but I mean, they're not really going through good form right now. They did gain some points because Monaco and PSG did get draws this week, though. So Lille defeat Caen 1-0. Angers defeat Nancy Lorraine 1-0. On Sunday, Bordeaux defeat Genkamp 3-0. Lyon defeat Dijon FCO 4-2. Good result there for Lyon. Montpellier defeat Saint-Etienne 2-1. And PSG and Toulouse play to a 0-0 draw. So PSG, after their really good result against Barcelona, kind of go and lay up a stinker against Toulouse. They dominated the game. They had 73% possession, but they couldn't get one past them. And it's a big drop there because Monaco did drop 2 points with their draw against Bastia. So PSG kind of they give up a chance there where they could really gain some good points. So Monaco stay 3 points atop League One with 59 points. PSG in second with 56. Nice in third with 56. And then the huge drop off there. Lyon in fourth with 43. Saint-Etienne in fifth with 39. Marseille as well with 39. And Bordeaux with 39. At the bottom of the table, Lorient have 22 points. Bastia have 23 points. Caen are in 18th with 25 points. And then Nancy-Lorraine and Dijon are 16th and 17th with 27 points. Metz there in 15th with 28 points. Lille 29 points through 14 games. Nantes and Angers have 30 points, and they're 12th and 13th respectively. So there's still a lot of teams that could technically get relegated in League One with about 12 to 13 games left in their season. We'll take our second break of the show. After the break, we're going to talk about upcoming games this week in all the top leagues. The ones we just mentioned, we'll throw in the Premier League as well. Unfortunately, we are going to have the Manchester Derby canceled and postponed because of Manchester United's League Cup action coming up on Saturday against Southampton. But we'll talk about the rest of the games coming up in the Premier League and others here at the Golden State Media Concept Soccer Podcast.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
We're going to start off our previews this week with the Premier League. The Premier League returns on Saturday. They were on League Cup action this past weekend. And honestly, I mean, even today, Arsenal will be playing Sutton United to advance to the quarterfinal. The winner of that game, we have the last 8 within the FA Cup. So on the Premier League coming up this upcoming Saturday, Crystal Palace will battle against Middlesbrough. A really important game at the bottom of the table for both of these teams. Palace trying to avoid relegation, but it looks like they have no way out. Against Middlesbrough, a really winnable game. They're going to need 3 points to do so. Hull City will be battling Burnley, two teams that are playing really well and met last year in the Championship. Everton will battle Sunderland. Really a couple of teams on other sides of the spectrum right now. Southampton and Arsenal were set to play, but that game will, of course, be postponed because Southampton will be battling Manchester United on Saturday in the EFL Cup Championship game. West Brom will battle Bournemouth. Chelsea will take on Swansea City. Watford will take on West Ham. On Sunday, Tottenham will battle Stoke. The Manchester Derby is postponed. Unfortunately, it was set to happen on Sunday, but Manchester United are playing Southampton in the EFL Cup final. On Monday, though, we have Leicester City against Liverpool. Leicester need to find a way to get some points. They're only 1 point away from relegation right now, and they are really struggling. Lost their last 5 in a row in the league. In the Bundesliga on Friday, Wolfsburg will battle Werder Bremen. On Saturday, Bayern Munich will take on Hamburg. Bayer Leverkusen will take on Mainz. RB Leipzig will battle Cologne. SC Freiburg will take on Dortmund. Darmstadt will battle Augsburg. Hertha Berlin will take on Eintracht. Good matchup there within teams within the top half of the bracket. Ingolstadt will take on Borussia Mönchengladbach on Sunday. And as well as Sunday, we have Schalke against Hoffenheim. So we're looking forward. Hopefully Bayern can bounce back against Hamburg. They really should be able to. Hamburg, not really one of the better teams. They're 15th in the Bundesliga. They only have 20 points through 21 games. So RB Leipzig and Dortmund, even Dortmund, I mean, they're 13 points back, but they can maybe be some spoilers, maybe challenge Bayern. They already beat them once, their lone loss in the league. Maybe give Leipzig another loss as well. But they can maybe play some spoilers. It's really between Bayern Munich and Leipzig to win this league. And Bayern are, of course, the favorites. Leipzig are going to have a game against Cologne this week, who are 7th in the league. They have 33 points through 21 games, so that could be a little interesting and tough there for the surprises of Europe, but we'll have to wait and see. What happens. In the Serie A on Saturday, Napoli and Atalanta will battle. That ought to be a great matchup there in the top half of Serie A bracket. Juventus will take on Empoli. On Sunday, Palermo will battle Sampdoria. Lazio will take on Udinese. Crotone will battle against Cagliari. Sassuolo will match up against AC Milan. Chievo will battle Pescara. Genoa and Bologna will meet. Inter Milan and Roma. That's by far the best game on Saturday. In the Serie A table, we have number 2 and number 4 playing respectively. Inter playing really, really well as of late. And as well are Roma. Edin Dzeko's firing for them on all cylinders. Ratchet 9 Golan scoring some absolutely cracker of goals from that center midfield position. And that'll be a great game. I'll give Roma the edge, though. I think Roma should come out on top. And then on Monday, Fiorentina will battle against Torino. In La Liga on Wednesday, Valencia will battle Real Madrid, so a little midweek action there for Los Blancos. On Friday, Las Palmas will battle Real Sociedad. On Saturday, Alaves will battle against Valencia. Real Betis will take on Sevilla. Eibar will battle against Malaga. Leganes will take on Deportivo La Coruña. On Sunday, we have Espanyol against Osasuna. Sporting Gijón against Celta Vigo. Villarreal and Real Madrid. Atletico Bilbao and Granada, and by far the biggest game of the week in La Liga is Atletico Madrid against Barcelona. Two teams kind of going in opposite ways in my eyes. Barcelona kind of struggling recently. They just don't really seem to have any consistent form. They'll go and beat a team like Alaves 6-0 and then really struggle against Leganes. Got blown out by PSG. And Atletico Madrid, they kind of went through their sort of stumbles and mishaps as well in La Liga, but they're playing really well as of late, winners of the last 3 in a row. They have 45 points, Barcelona with 51. This is a big, big result. For once, I think Real Madrid will actually be rooting for Atletico Madrid to win here against Barcelona because they could open up a really, really big lead if that were to be the case. These two teams met already in the regular season, and it was a 1-1 draw. We'll have to wait and see how this one goes. That's a huge matchup in Europe and in La Liga. It could really determine a lot of the La Liga table there. Now to the French League. So on Friday, we have Nantes battling Dijon. We have Nice against Montpellier. Of course, Nice will not have Mario Balotelli in that game. He did get his 3rd red last week. On Saturday, Gincamp will battle Monaco. They look back to return to their winning ways and scoring more than 1 goal, which they do more times than not. Angers will battle against Bastia. Nancy-Lorraine will take on Toulouse. Lille will battle up against Bordeaux. Rennes will lock up against Lorient. Saint-Etienne and Caen matchup. Lyon and Metz as well. And then Marseille against PSG ought to be an interesting matchup there. How Dimitri Payet can maybe work his way through a lot of this midfield for Paris Saint-Germain. That's going to be it for the show today, guys. I'd like to thank you once again for listening here at the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast. My name is Ben Brown. Have a good day. Have a good week. We'll be back next Monday to talk all things talking about the Champions League, top rumors around the world, games, competitions, players. It all goes down here at the GSMC Soccer Podcast. Thanks again for listening, guys. We'll see you next week, and have a good day. Goodbye.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.